Hey guys, it's M, and today I wanted to talk about another game I randomly picked up off of a whim. Deadzone Rogue. Truth be told, I only found this game because I was itching for another roguelike. I love the genre, but I never had a ton of games from it. So imagine my surprise when I scroll and see an FPS roguelike on sale for about 10 bucks. The reviews and screenshots provided by the game made it seem pretty mediocre, to be honest, but once I got it and began playing it, well, that's an entirely different story I'm happy to tell you all about. I'm going to save the gameplay related things for a moment just because obviously in a game of this genre it's going to be the thing I have the most to talk about. The story here is simple and sweet. You're on a ship, your character has amnesia, and you go level to level trying to figure out what's going on and who you are. It's a very simple plot, but very simple plots can be carried by likable characters, kind of like how I said in my Clash review. Unfortunately, unlike that game, you're alone most of the time here. But luckily, our main character is pretty charming. Initially, I heard his voice and I guessed he was just going to be the TikTok e-boy cool guy.
Holy hell, that CEO dude actually cloned himself. Hey asshole, can you hear me?
But no, he has a lot of lines that are about the areas you'll be going through and all the key story beats. He'll speculate on what's going on around him before you reach conclusions to these plot lines, and he's a good character.
Okay, buddy, you know the drill. Don't panic, keep it together. Just gonna hit the teleporter first, and then figure out what's going on later.
He acts like an everyday guy sucked into a crazy new reality, but he never overdoes it like Forspoken or games similar. He even has a small plant on his ship that you could go out of your way to interact with named Planty. I assume this would be an annoying thing he acknowledges just to be quirky, but given like I said before, you're alone most of the game story-wise, you grow pretty damn attached to this plant by just hearing how he speaks to it.
You really tie the room together, like a rug. That's also quietly judging me.
It really drives the point that your character's alone in space all the way home. So like I said at the start, the writing here is simple and charming, and I feel the devs knew and leaned into that. This isn't a point I normally make, but this game looks pretty good. It's clearly not GTA 6 big budget graphic wise or anything, but kinda like the story, there's a lot of charming stuff crammed into this. All the guns have unique inspect animations, sometimes multiple. Every gun here gets a lot of skins you'll get just by playing through the zones. Usually the better looking ones are locked behind the higher difficulties. So like Trepang, there's definitely a lot of skins you can use to flex how far you've gotten or show what you've beaten casually. When you're going through the missions, they have small save rooms. Sometimes they can have these little lounge areas on the side, and if you sit in them, a little elevator like Jenga will play inside. This is something they didn't need to do, but they did just because it helped flesh out the world. Many dialogue options here will only present themselves if you go out of your way to interact with stuff in the map. It's small stuff like all of this that helps you appreciate this game and stops it from going stale the further you play it. Also, last point on this I want to shine some appreciation on is the cutscenes. Simple and efficient, but they have good polish to them. This game has a very interesting setup. There are 4 zones in the game currently. With the exception of the 4th zone, each one serves as one story mission, then a clump of side levels. If you're expecting a game with a long twisting and turning narrative, with said narrative being the main meat here, you'd probably be disappointed. Deadzone's a pretty gamey game. The majority of your playtime is going to be spent improving yourself and trying to beat the side challenges, which just isn't a problem for me. Think of something like Streets of Rogue. Not necessarily a long game if you want to play it once and forget about it, but if you're trying to really dig into the content here, you'll have quite a bit to go through. Now, let's talk about the gameplay. Deadzone is without a doubt one of my favorite movement shooters. I never thought I needed a movement shooter roguelike until this game. To start with the movement shooter portion, your character here controls quite well. He has a single dash like Doom Eternal, grenade, 2 gun slots for primary and secondary, then a melee. Without all the crazy stuff he can get on top of his base kit, he controls nice and smooth. The most I imagine the average player would struggle with is getting used to the fact you have to dash in order to start running. He can't run without using his dash first. It's something you'll just have to get used to if you want to stick around with this game. Then we have to get to the roguelike segment. Pretty much everything here is random. The guns you get, the buffs you get, the enemy layout, etc. The only thing that's really set in stone is you get a save every 3 floors and that there will be a major boss every 10. I will happily say this is a game that feels balanced around fun first. Don't get me wrong, this game will still absolutely dog you above normal if you're playing bad, but you can get some absurdly strong options. And the best part is they have so many variables with the perks you gain. I feel you can literally pick up every weapon here and make a build strong for them. Many times towards the start of the game, I thought certain weapons were bad or straight up nigh unusable. The sniper rifles come to mind pretty much immediately. Once I started thinking about how to play around them and their strengths, they've saved me multiple runs. So many perks play into each other here that you'll feel like a mastermind when everything starts clicking. And what's even better, more and more RNG elements are thrown in each zone. Every time you go up a zone, they have more mechanics. It leads to every single time you step into a new area, you're kind of in awe for the next hour or so playing around with whatever they added. I can't really do it justice with just my words, so let me just show you some gameplay of a decently optimized build here. And I'm sure you noticed the feedback. The sound design for killing enemies and collecting loot never gets old here. The game is designed like a constant dopamine hit, but if you've played movement shooters, it never gets so cluttered it's overwhelming. It feels great. Also, while I haven't touched it as none of my friends have this game or are into this genre, it also has full crossplay support with PC, Xbox, and PS5. Given this is one of the best movement shooters and roguelikes I've played even if we broke them up into 2 genres by themselves, it should go without saying, I'd say you should give this a try or at least attempt to put one of your friends onto this game if they're interested in either of those genres. Despite all that, this game forces you to play on easy, normal, or hard. There are 2 or 3 higher difficulties than that, but you have to unlock those. Seeing the gameplay you just did, you'd probably assume you can just breeze through everything in a matter of moments with little difficulty. But these enemies, even on hard, will put you on your ass again and again. Granted, your character does gradually get stronger with the upgrade systems, but initially the first boss was a hard wall for me. Anytime I got 10 or so floors in, I'd get shredded down and it was driving me mad. After beating him, I assumed I'd be able to easily beat whatever comes next. Then I got to the floor 20 boss and got hard walled again. For the first week or so, I was hard stuck in the first zone, dying to pretty much every new threat. The mindless were dragging me and I thought they were broken at the start. The wasps were a wall. Then at a certain point, I was just losing the lesser enemies because I was just being mentally thrown off. But eventually, through a lot of trial and error, I beat the first zone and thought, okay, now I really have the game under control. I understand all the mechanics and the enemies, so now it's time to cruise. Then I proceeded to zone 2 and immediately got shard on. Fun thing about this game is every zone, alongside having its own new RNG gimmicks, also has a new cast of enemies to deal with. A cast harder than pretty much everything in zone 1. The more comfortable you get with the game, the more they toss at you to throw you off. It leads to you always saying, what is that, to pretty much anything. And it also leads to you really feeling the sense of progression through this world. Speaking of which, I wanted to address a criticism I heard in some other review when I was checking if I wanted to buy the game. The reviewer pointed out that when you unlock the new mechanics for each zone, they don't track backwards. For instance, you unlock perk synergies in zone 3 that allow you to get unique buffs if you run certain other perks together. If you went back to zone 1, you wouldn't be able to use this system at all. The reason I'd assume they did this is because of balancing. The enemies, the further you go, as I said, tend to improve with you. If you brought all the mechanics from zone 4 back to zone 1, you'd easily shred through everything because they aren't equipped to deal with you at that level of strength. This is where the stuff I couldn't fit into any other section is going to go. First, the codex. I love the codex in this game. It lets you see the models and get information on all the enemies, which is neat for sure, and I love little stuff like that, but they also have a list of every perk and add-on in the game alongside what those effects actually do. For instance, when you beat Zone 1, you unlock Psychic as an element for your weapons. I didn't know what on earth Psychic would do, as it's not something you can spitball like fire or lightning, but the codex here laid it out perfectly for me. In a game with this much in it, effect-wise, it's nice to not have to go to a source outside of the game just to find something core to its function. This next point is a tiny nitpick, but I want to toss it out on the off chance the devs see this. In 2 missions you get unique augments, Glass Cannon and Martial Arts Master. These 2 augments have trades in running them. Glass Cannon makes you stronger and take more damage, while Martial Arts Master makes your melee do more but your guns do less. They push for some very fun gameplay in my opinion, so it kind of hurts you can only use them in 1 mission. I understand they most likely didn't want to stack augments on top of that to make sure it stayed like a boon, but even as it stayed as is by itself, or they did something really spicy and made it so the additions played into its boon-like nature, I'd be fine with that. So if you devs see this, please incorporate this into the game somehow. Maybe with Zone 5? Smile? The music here is pretty good. I don't think it's going on my top 10 or anything, but I really love the way they go from small simple stealth loops to the action variants of these tracks. To spitball what comes to mind immediately, Segmentation Fault and the Zone 4 OST jump out at me. Segmentation Fault has this lonely, cold sort of space feel to it that I really love when it's on the stealth mix. Despite the fact the loop itself is pretty short, I think it establishes the atmosphere of the early game pretty well. It's the main reason I decided to upload that extended version of it a bit ago. And around Zone 3 or 4, the OST kind of reminded me of some of the Doom Eternal tracks. Not some of the more intense ones like Meat Hook or Cultist Bass, but the more underlying but good ones. Honestly, I don't have a ton more to say about this game because it knew what it wanted to be and it did it very well. It's the roguelike with great gameplay and a simple but good story. If you like the genre and wanted a real gem to play around with, I'd really recommend you give this game a try. It's been fun the entire way for me, but I guess with all that out of the way, I've said my piece. As always, as long as you're respectful, I'm glad to discuss with you in the comments, and I've been Ed, and I am out.